that graduation stage? Well, I believe I have two ideas that can at least be part of the solution. And to illustrate those ideas, I'd like to tell you about a young man I met at Leesburg High School. He was actually not one of my students. The football coach called and said, "Hey, I got a kid. He needs some help. Could you tutor him on your Monday evening tutoring sessions?" He went on to, well, he was a football coach, and by the way, he didn't want him to miss football practice. That's why he chose that Monday evening tutoring session. But he told me that this student named Anthony had athletic potential to earn a football scholarship, but that he was behind in his credits, and he was having to take geometry and algebra 2 as a senior. Well, I, of course, agreed, and he became a regular on Monday nights. Now, as fall continued, it gets dark earlier in the fall, my husband decided he wasn't that comfortable with me going and coming in the dark, so he decided he'd just tag along. Well, my husband didn't really like mathematics in high school or college, but he actually remembered some geometry and algebra, and he began to help some of my students too. So Monday evening tutoring became a project for both of us. Well, one evening we left and we noticed Anthony was walking. Well, I couldn't help myself. I rolled the car window down and I said, "Anthony, would you like a ride?" He said, "Oh, yes, please." So he jumps in the car and we take him home. Well, we find out that he really doesn't have transportation, so that became the norm. We just drive him home on our way home every Monday evening. Well, on one of those evenings, we were going home, and Anthony shared with us that the guidance counselor had called him in that day and said, "Anthony, you've got to pass all your classes, and you've got to do pretty well. And you're going to have to take economics online, or you're not going to graduate on time." Well, he's telling us the story, and we could hear the anxiety in his voice. My husband and I came and gave each other the eye, and we were listening. Then he went on to tell us he did not have computer access or internet access at his home. Now, I hate to admit this to you, but it was my husband that stepped up first and volunteered to help Anthony. He said, "Anthony, you find out about that class, and we'll work on that Monday night after math tutoring in Miss Durkin's classroom." Well, that was the plan, but we found out economics is hard. There was no way we were going to get through that course just on an hour after math tutoring on Mondays. So it became a regular event for me to pick him up after practice, bring him home to have dinner with my family. Then, of course, we had to get that math homework done first. And then he would work on our computer on his economics online course. The end of this part of the story is that Anthony graduated on time. He went to college on a football scholarship. He earned his bachelor's degree, his master's degree, and here's the best news yet. Anthony is now a teacher and football coach at a Title I high school in the Dallas Metroplex area. Two actions impacted Anthony's achievement. And I believe these two actions can help other students as well. First, teachers, I need you to teach your students about growth mindset. Anthony did okay in geometry with a little bit of support, but he struggled in algebra 2. He simply did not believe he could learn this material. He had a fixed mindset about his math abilities. I kept encouraging him to believe in himself. There was a disconnect. He just wouldn't do it. Until one night. One evening, we're sitting at the kitchen table working on that math homework, and I had to brag on him because the night before he had helped us win the basketball game because he had made so many free throw shots. So I'm telling him, "Oh, Anthony, you helped us win the game. I'm so excited." Of course, he's just grinning, so proud of himself. And then I just looked at him. I said, "Anthony, how did you get so good at making those free throw shots?" He didn't know I had just pulled him in. He said, "Oh, Miss Durkins, we practice that every day." I looked at him and I said, "Guess what? You practice algebra 2 every day. You can be just as good at math as you are making those free throw shots." Do you know that didn't make him happy? Not a bit. He looked at me and he said, "Miss Durkins, do you really think that I can learn all this? You know I don't get it." And I responded, of course you can. With a little bit of work and perseverance, you can learn not only Algebra 2, but any class at this school or any class in college. Well, I actually noticed a difference in him after that night. So when I was preparing for this talk, I thought I should ask Anthony if he remembered our conversation. Well, he did. He told me that night, he suddenly thought, I can do this. He said, you know, he began to think, if I can work hard, if I can listen to my coaches, and I can become a better athlete, I can be a better student. He suddenly found that, yes, I can be a college student. He told me he had been able to visualize himself on a college football field, but he really had not been able to see himself in a college classroom. You know, mindset matters. Research, particularly that of Carol Dweck, shows that even IQs can be increased, but it takes the first step of believing that you can learn. Teachers, we need to help our students believe in themselves, recognize their potential, and visualize their futures. Second, some of our students need mentors. Both of Anthony's parents had passed away when he was young. He had moved to grandma's house, to aunt's house, to cousin's house in South Florida before coming to Leesburg and Leesburg High School at the end of his junior year to live with his stepbrother and family. During his time in school, he had had very little academic support from home, and to be perfectly honest, not a lot of academic or personal support. He just needed a mentor. He needed someone to guide him and help him. You know, we can all do that. Every single one of us in this room can mentor a student. And we don't all have to do it the same way. You might be like the football coach. He did not have time to tutor Anthony, and maybe he wasn't even comfortable with the material. But you know what? He knew somebody that could help, and he simply asked. You might be like the guidance counselor that called him in. You know, you might see a problem with a student with scheduling, with an academic gap, and you take the time to warn the student ahead of time and give that student some options and help them make it work out before it's too late. You might be like my husband. He wasn't a teacher of mathematics or economics, but he found himself recognizing potential and a nice young man, and he was willing to share some time with him. Or maybe you are the teacher, and you can give that extra time tutoring, maybe that extra afternoon time or evening time or morning time, or maybe even you could give up lunch one day a week and eat lunch with your student and be a true mentor. Mentoring matters. And it really doesn't take that much time to make the difference in the life of a child. And it is worth it. Research shows that students who meet regularly with their mentor are 52% less likely to miss a day of school, 55% more likely to enroll in college, and almost 100% report having better grades and better attitudes toward their education. I am convinced teaching growth mindset and mentoring can at least be part of the answer to reaching every student in our great state and closing the achievement gap in Florida. I hope, educators, you will help our students believe in their abilities, and please reach out to just one student, find a mentor, or be the mentor that changes the direction of a life. What you may discover is your life will also be changed. My family was blessed by Anthony. He taught us many things. He taught us about poverty. He taught us about how hard it is to get out of poverty. He made us more grateful for what we had. He also taught us about resilience, determination, and the power of hard work. And he even shared a completely new culture with us. His heritage is Haitian. So we've learned to eat rice with black beans and fried plantains. The truth is, we fell in love with Anthony, and he loved us back. Because he was 18, Because he was 18, we didn't formally adopt Anthony, but this is my boy here. This is my son, Anthony. He has a bedroom at the house. He goes on vacations with us. He comes home for Christmas every year, and he tries very hard to make it home for Mother's Day. This one's not something we planned, so be open to your future as an educator. Seize the opportunity, certainly to make a difference in your classrooms, but also to make a difference in the personal lives of your students. And if you're like me, those latter efforts will bring your greatest joys. Thank you.